Alright, everyone, let's talk movies. And today is a special episode for multiple reasons. First of all, this is going to be the last episode in a while because our buddy, co-host John Horn here is going off to college.
Oh, yeah.
He will be back sooner than later on breaks to do more episodes, which is awesome. Another reason that today's special is because we tried to intentionally pick a bad movie. But our take on this supposedly bad movie might surprise you a little bit, at least in my case.
Oh, yeah. A little, yeah, me too, a little bit.
So, you're not going to want to miss this.
Alrighty.
John, hit us with the movie specs.
Alright, so the movie we are reviewing is, of course, Pearl Harbor. It was directed by our good friend and yours, Michael Bay. We've seen him once. We've seen him once on this on our channel when we reviewed 13 Hours, The Secret Soldiers of Benghazi. So he's back with this one. It was written by Randall Wallace, who also wrote Braveheart. He also wrote and directed We Were Soldiers, which we just recently reviewed. Yep. It was produced by Jerry Bruckheimer and Michael Bay. It has a pretty big cast. Ben Affleck is top billed, and then in supporting roles we have Josh Hartnett, Kate Beckinsale, Cuba Gooding Jr., Tom Sizemore, John Voight, Colm Feore, and of course Alec Baldwin, who plays Doolittle. And then cinematography was by John Schwartzman. It was edited by four guys: Chris Lebinson, Mark Goldblatt, Steven Rosenblum, and Roger Barton. Music was, of course, by the great Hans Zimmer. It was the production companies were Touchstone Pictures and Jerry Bruckheimer Films. It was distributed by Buena Vista Pictures Distribution. The premiere was on May 21st, 2001, of course, in Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, and then it went wide on May 25th, 2001 on the mainland. It clocks in at 184 minutes, or 3 hours and 4 minutes. It is a long movie. Yeah. It was an American production. However, there is Japanese spoken in the movie in addition to English. It had a $140 million budget and raked in quite a bit of money at the box office, $450.2 million.
That's a lot of money.
So,
especially for 2001.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
So this movie made a hefty sum. Yeah. It was profitable. To say the least. But so what's the plot of this movie? How does it set up? Well, this is a epic, I guess you could say, drama centered around the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor in December of 1941. However, its main story centers around these two kind of best friends named Rafe McCauley and Danny Walker, played by Ben Affleck and Josh Hartnett. They've grown up together, and they're fighter pilots in the American military. And in 1941, before Pearl Harbor, obviously, and Rafe falls for this nurse named I'm forgetting her name. Why am I forgetting her name? Evelyn. He falls for this nurse named Evelyn, and they have this little whirlwind romance, and he. But unfortunately, he volunteers to go over to Britain to be a volunteer in the Royal Air Force as part of the Eagle Squadron, made up of American volunteers, because obviously at this point America was not in the war yet, but he wanted to help out. And so he goes off, and unfortunate things happen, and back home, Danny, his best friend, gets together with his girlfriend, and
but that's after he died.
Supposedly died, but anyway.
Yeah, but I think it's important to know.
Oh yeah,
it's not like his friend was waiting in the wings for him to leave.
Yeah. Anyway, and then basically they all reunite on December 7th, 1941, when the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor. So that's kind of the setup of this movie and the plot there. Without any spoilers, but we will be getting into some spoilers. So spoiler alert, as we always.
Yes. First thing.
What's your first big?
Yeah,
positive?
we got to do positives. Yeah. So first of all, this movie, just because it's historical, it all automatically puts it over other movies for me. Like that's automatically a plus for me. Mm-hmm. When movies are done about true events and they're not like fantastical, which this movie has its inaccuracies, but it's not fantastical. It's very based in reality, so that gives it a good baseline for me, because I'm very much a fan of history as a story.
Me too.
Love seeing, as you've seen on this channel. Especially American history, because we are both Americans and we are both patriotic Americans. So my number one thing would be the production design on this movie is very impressive.
Mm-hmm.
You've got real planes, you've got real boats. They've got an absurd amount of real planes in the air, which is like all these Japanese Zeros. You know, they take planes off of aircraft carriers. Like, it's really cool how much of that stuff they actually get on screen. You know, they do have to animate some of the dogfights, which I'll get to that later, but most of the flying is real, and that goes a long way with me. Also, on the same note of production design, they've done a great job with all the costumes, all the set pieces. Everything looks 1940s. Everything looks immaculate. Really helps you dig into that time frame. There's nothing that really happens that pulls you out of the 1940s atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
Whoever was in charge of production design and set design and costume design for this movie did a phenomenal job. All the firearms are real, are accurate. I mean, probably they didn't use real firearms, but they look good.
Yeah, good props.
Yeah, great props. And so, and you know, whoever did hair and makeup, they had what the crap? Whoever did hair and makeup, they had 1940s haircuts. What in the world just happened? Okay, well, we just had to change the background.
A different image.
Yep.
That's not a bad one.
You have to deal with this one. That's probably going to happen more than once during the video, so get ready. So anyway, that's my first positive. John?
Yeah. All right, so my biggest positive. So I have to kind of divide this movie into two halves for me. The first half to me sucks. The second half is quite good. The first half is Michael Bay trying to do a romance that's set during a historical time period, and it, in my opinion, completely falls flat. In the second half, it's Michael Bay doing a war film.
Which is what Michael Bay
does
best.
And that's Michael Bay loves doing explosions, and that's what happens in wars, especially at Pearl Harbor. And it's quite entertaining to watch, and it's very well done. So my biggest positive on this movie would be the 40-minute Pearl Harbor sequence.
Yep.
It takes place about halfway through the movie, and it's pretty epic. I mean, obviously it's very riveting because, you know, it really happened and lots of Americans died, unfortunately. But it's very well done. I love the build up to it and how it shows the Japanese perspective well as the American perspective. It shows how the Japanese, how they were, you know, sending all these different messages that they basically were intending for the Americans to decrypt, and the Americans were having to sort through them and figure out where the Japanese were going to attack because their fleet had completely gone off the map. And eventually, obviously, they do attack on the morning of December 7th. And I love the shots of the planes flying in to Pearl Harbor, and it shows all these random people that are just going about their daily lives, and they're just like seeing all these hundreds of Zeros coming right over their head. And but the shots of them going off of the aircraft carriers are so cool.
Yeah.
The cinematography overall in this movie is quite good. There's a lot of beautiful shots throughout this movie. But anyway, and then obviously they eventually do start dropping bombs on Pearl Harbor, and it's just this total. It just becomes total chaos, you know. And I love how it shows the perspective of the bombs. It'll show them drop a bomb, and it follows the bomb down into the ship.
That was one really cool shot like that.
And then it also will follow the torpedoes down into the water as they go into the ship. Specifically, the first one I think hits the Arizona, which unfortunately, as they say at the end of the movie, there's people that were still trapped down there and they were never able to be recovered, unfortunately. But I believe that was the first ship that got sunk was the USS Arizona. But and then throughout the whole sequence, it just builds up, and the Americans are obviously doing all they can to preserve all the ships. And you have this epic scene with this cook that they've kind of he's talked about throughout the movie as wanting to earn respect, and he can't do that really that much because he's just a cook, and so he doesn't really get to fight or even fire a gun. He said he's never fired a gun, and he gets on this anti-aircraft gun and absolutely just takes down a Zero, and he's just like, yeah, and the music's swelling in the background, and then obviously eventually our two main heroes get in on the action. But before I talk about that, I mean, obviously you have the nurses as well. A big perspective of this movie is the nurses' perspective, and it shows how they obviously just rushed to the hospital and did everything they could. I mean, it probably wasn't much, but they did everything they could to save however many people they could. But obviously, eventually, our two main protagonists, Rafe and Danny, along with some of their buddies, that are also fighter pilots, they get to this airfield that has not been attacked yet.